episode 7 of the Belleville Sens podcast. Senators coming off a successful road trip out to the Atlantic Division. We're going to recap that this week. We're also going to get you set for a 3-game homestand. Some important matchups including Utica on Wednesday, Rockford on Friday, Rochester on Saturday, and we'll also have the latest installment of Get to Know Your FO, Get to Know Your Front Office with sales executive, account executive extraordinaire, Alex Siragusa. That's all coming up on this episode, number 7 of the Belleville Sens podcast. David Foote here, Joel Vanderlaan joining remotely from Wooler, Ontario, because of the weather that we've had over the last 24 hours. And it's been snowy and won't impact the games this week, which is good. And thanks to the beauty of technology, we can get Joel on the line from anywhere in the world, basically. So, yeah, pretty big week for the boys, Joel. And I think I said this on the broadcast on Sunday in Hershey. If you had told me at the start of last week that not only would the Senators win 2 of 3 games in that road trip, but earn the wins in Wilkes-Barre and Hershey, I maybe not would have called you crazy, but I would have had some doubts. What did you make of the week overall, first of all?
Yeah, I think the Belleville Senators once again kind of showed their resolve, like you mentioned, a tough outing to start the week at Thursday in Bridgeport. And like you mentioned, 2 really tough buildings, 2 teams that play to their identities in Hershey and Wilkes-Barre, and they come away with 2 stingy, tightly contested wins. And you could see David Bell really putting his mark on this club as well as their defensive prowess continues to excel.
Yeah, we talked about that on the broadcast this weekend as well. That exact point, that David Bell is a defenseman by trade. That's where he honed his skills coming up through the ranks as a player, and obviously that's where a lot of his focus has been with the Belleville Senators in his 4 years here, and they're scoring enough right now to get the job done, but defensively they've been really strong, and then 2 really, really good goaltending performances on Saturday and Sunday, not to take away from Luke Richardson, who started on Thursday in Bridgeport, but yeah, defensively things have been outstanding, and offensively they're getting just enough done to win hockey games, and that's really all you can ask for, I think, at this point in the season.
Yeah, and I think a lot of their goals have been timely goals at scoring when they need to score. And you touched on it in Hershey. How big was that Cole Reinhardt goal to make it 3-1 as Hershey was putting on their late push? And Belleville's really starting to get into the flow of games now and managing games, which is something early in the season that they really struggled with. How many times did we see that they would control a game for 20 minutes, 40 minutes, and then let it slip away? And that stuff they've really cleaned up, and it was really good to see on this road trip, because as we saw, Wilkes-Barre and Hershey really put on those late blitzes, and a lot of credit to Dylan Ferguson and Kevin Mandalese as well to keep their teams in those games.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing about the success over the weekend is it's put Belleville right back into the mix again in the North Division, only 2 points out of a playoff spot behind the Rochester Americans, who we're going to see here at CAA Arena coming up this weekend on Saturday for Community Heroes Night presented by Bell. And that, I think, has been the goal, at least in the last couple of weeks. Jake Lucchini did an interview with Global Kingston this morning and basically said, given how far back they were, even a couple weeks ago, the plan has kind of just been to control what they can control, not worry about the results that are happening elsewhere, and that philosophy seems to have worked out for Belleville on that road trip that has just passed. Again, a loss in Bridgeport, a win in Wilkes-Barre-Scranton, and a win in Hershey. Let's start with Bridgeport, because this was a wild 24 hours, and I think the 5-1 result certainly doesn't speak to the competitiveness of the game and how well Belleville actually played, but a strange scenario where you've got a PTO goaltender from Queen's University, Luke Richardson. Here's the full story if you didn't hear it on the broadcast. Kevin Mandalese comes back from Ottawa just in time. Antoine Bibeau and Logan Flodell are both hurt. They don't make the trip, so Mando's going to be the guy for this 3-game road trip. They call in Luke Richardson from Queen's University as a little bit of support, a little bit of backup. He arrives in Bridgeport at 4 a.m. on game day, is on the bus at 8:45 to get to the rink for the 11 o'clock morning skate, takes the morning skate, but then near the end of the morning skate, literally the last drill, Kevin Mandalese takes a Mark Kastelik shot off his left foot and has to be helped off the ice. And everybody in the rink was just like, oh boy, here we go again. Another goaltending injury. At that point, Richardson finds out he's going to have to make his first pro start that night on 4 hours sleep. I highly doubt he slept much at all during his pregame nap. And not only is he making his first pro start, he's up against Corey Schneider at the other end of the rink, who's got 600-plus professional starts. It was quite the story, and I think the scoreline fits that story, but again, doesn't fit how well the Senators actually played in front of Luke Richardson.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's a tough position, like you mentioned, for Luke Richardson to come in there, and I think he showed his pedigree, and he showed why he was given an opportunity to sign out of Queen's University, and he was a good goalie with the Kitchener Rangers in the OHL. He's been good at the youth sports level as well, so helping out the team, strapping on the pads and being available, which was a big thing, and really making sure that the Belleville Senators were able to compete in that game. And like you mentioned, a tough result, but maybe the score line doesn't really always show what goes into a game on a nightly basis. And I think Dave Bell had a nice quote after the game as well, praising Luke Richardson for being there and being a great teammate, and the guys really seem to bond around him as well. And would have liked to give him a win, but sometimes it doesn't go your way.
And Sens also had to bring up Brian Wilson from the Federal League, which is it was just a matter of convenience. He was in nearby Danbury, Connecticut. He came to back up Richardson that night, and there was a funny exchange between him and a couple of the players in the tunnel before they went out, where he was saying, they were asking him, were you shocked? Were you surprised? Like, what are your feelings about this? And he was like, no, actually, I did this a couple times last year where I e-bugged for either Bridgeport or Wilkes-Barre or somebody nearby. So old hat for him. And I'm pretty sure he had a bunch of friends in the crowd in Bridgeport as well before going back to Danbury. So a wild night for goaltending, and of all the results over the course of the weekend, that's the one to push behind because it did end in a 5-1 loss. A couple nights later, the management staff, Ryan Bonus, general manager, and Sean McCauley, who works in hockey ops between Belleville and Ottawa, and I'm sure Justin Peters was involved in this as well. But the injury to Mandalese forces the Sens to have to make a trade and to pick up goaltender Dylan Ferguson from the Toronto Marlies, trade for future considerations. And Ferguson has had an interesting year as well, right? He was signed by Toronto to play for the Marlies in a depth role, but Joseph Wall and Eric Schallgren and Keith Petruzzelli all having pretty good seasons, and after they got healthy in the goaltending department, there was just no room for a guy like Dylan Ferguson, and relegated to the ECHL he was, and gets this opportunity in Belleville. Belleville's become kind of the land of opportunity this season for guys on pro tryouts or guys without other places to play. And did he ever come in and prove himself on Saturday night against Wilkes-Barre Scranton?
He did, and he's a major reason why the Belleville Senators get that 2-1 overtime win. 38 saves, a career high for him, and the Belleville Sens, they've had some success making trades for future considerations within the division with Jake Lucchini, Brendan Saulnier, and they're hoping Dylan Ferguson's next in line in that kind of trend of successful trades.
Yeah, he was outstanding. 38 saves, like you mentioned. Wilkes-Barre Scranton ties the game with under 2 minutes left. They pull their goaltender. They force overtime, and then Cole Reinhardt ends up being the overtime hero, scoring his first of 2 back-to-back games. We'll obviously get to the Hershey game in a moment, but for Cole Reinhardt, and I talked as well to the coaching staff about that goal. Big confidence booster, I think, for a guy who has not been putting up consistent points this year. Not really his game so much, but a guy who has plenty of scoring potential and has done it in the past. And a big moment for him, and I think a real good snapshot of the type of skill set that he possesses with that speed and that shot and that strength.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And he's a player that can play up and down your lineup. He can play in your top six. He can play in your bottom six as well. And I think with Cole Reinhardt, a lot of it is it's his intangibles. He does everything right. He kills penalties. He can get some time on the power play, and kind of a little bit of a coach's dream as well. And when you kind of start to put it all together, you get rewarded with goals like that, and you get rewarded with ice time. And David Bell, Ben Sexton putting a lot on his plate right now with the injuries, like you mentioned, and he's excelling in that role. And once you start scoring, you have a little bit more fun coming to the rink, and hopefully he can continue that this week, as Bell is going to need some more offensive push against three good teams coming in here, like you mentioned.
Roby Arvente also scoring on Saturday night. Big goal for him. He really seems to be rounding into form and becoming the type of player that the Ottawa Senators expected him to be.
Yeah, he is. And I think, too, you see that he's getting healthy now after a really difficult knee injury. And I think, too, the Sens have moved him to center, which has freed him up to kind of get in on the rush a little bit more, create a little bit more offensively, and just get more engaged in the game, which is something maybe they wanted to see from Roby. And now you're seeing the 5-on-5 scoring from him as opposed to just kind of living on the power play like he was so far in his young career. And still a really young player, only 20 years old. So the way he's been playing these last 2 weeks, he's a difference maker. He's a guy that this coaching staff has really come to rely on. And if he could keep this up, there's a good chance Belleville's going to be in the mix for a playoff spot right till the end.
Nice performances from Cole Reinhardt and Roby Arvente, but again, the hero of the night really, and for some reason was named the second star of the game. Should have been the first without a doubt, was Dylan Ferguson. We caught up with him post-game, and Tony Andrikaitis from Inside AHL Hockey was alongside as well. So here's the scrum from Dylan Ferguson, just a few minutes long, and then we will recap the game in Hershey the following night. Here with newest Senators goaltender Dylan Ferguson, who joins the team and then backstops them to an overtime win in Wilkes-Barre on this Saturday night. First off, welcome to Belleville.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you.
What have the last 24 hours plus been like for you in finding out about the trade and making your way here and settling in?
I'm glad you asked. It's been the last 72 have been pretty crazy, to tell you the truth. The plan was that I was going to get loaned to Wichita. On Wednesday, my flight got canceled. Sat in the plane for a couple hours. Same thing Thursday. Identical situations, kind of deja vu. And then, Friday I hopped in a car service to Toledo to join Wichita. 20 minutes in, I got a call from the Marlies saying I've been traded to Belleville. So, things happen fast, and I think it was just really important to stay in the moment and just be ready to go.
Yeah, it's always an adventure in this league. And for you, you started the season with the Marlies. Obviously, they've got a lot of goaltending depth up there. How nice is it to come to Belleville and a place where we need some help, and you're obviously able to provide that?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I've been honestly grinding pretty hard since November, really, since I got to play. And I was just kind of praying for an opportunity to come up and just making sure I'm keeping myself ready. And, to play with a group of guys like this already, they're so welcoming, and they were all excited. And, they're a group you want to play for, especially tonight. They're soaking shots. They're really working hard when a team's pretty desperate over there. And, you love to see it and you love to play for that.
What were the keys for you, I suppose, in settling in so quickly and putting up that performance tonight?
I think just trust all the work I've put in. Obviously I didn't get to play, and that can be used as an excuse sometimes, but I didn't want to use it as an excuse. And so I just went out there and told myself I'm going to do the best I can do, stay in the moment, and just try to stop the puck.
Just coming to this team, obviously they're at the bottom of the division, sort of fighting, to get back up. You sort of look forward to that challenge, to sort of, backstop this team and make a push towards the playoffs?
Yeah, absolutely. Pressure's always good. I look at it that way, and and there's a little extra edge in the dressing room, and guys are trying to be a little desperate, going that extra inch on the ice. It's a pretty fun thing to be a part of. I've been lucky to be on a few teams that have been in both situations, at the top and in the bottom, and it's interesting when you're with a group that's trying to fight back. There's just that extra push.
And then just kind of going off that, you're obviously dialed in. Did you sort of, was there a point where you realized this was going to be a good night for you? I know it was kind of slow to start, but they poured on the shots as the game went on there.
Yeah, I just, going back to what I said earlier, I just really feel like I need to stay in the moment. You can never predict how a hockey game's going to go. So for me, at the end of the day, we have one job, and it's to stop the puck when it's shot at you. So I just waited for the opportunity to do that and tried to do my best at that.
A lot of work tonight and a quick turnaround tomorrow. Should you get the tap, are you the type of guy that likes to have a lot of work?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think back to my playoffs a couple of years ago and played like 13 games in 16 days or something. So, it's great, and we'll see what happens.
That's newest Belleville Sens goaltender Dylan Ferguson, the 24-year-old from Lantzville, BC, taken by Dallas in the 7th round in 2017, bounced around a bit, and now has found himself a home here with the Belleville Senators. And it's a good thing, Joel, that he said he likes the pressure and he likes a little bit of extra work, because there has been quite the workload for the goaltending stable here in the Friendly City this season, and there's going to be a lot of pressure because, again, like Jake Lucchini was saying to Global News Kingston this morning, the playoffs have basically already started for this team in terms of how many games you'll need to win just to get in.
What you expect from a guy with his pedigree, ECHL Kelly Cup champion, like you mentioned in the interview as well. So he's going to be relied on heavily. Kevin Mandalese is going to be relied on heavily. Antoine Bibeau, when he returns, is going to be relied on. And I think, too, when you start to look at the three names you got in net now, you got to be pretty confident that you got three guys that you could tap on the shoulder and say, go get them. And it's high pressure. It's going to be a grind till the end of the season here with 19 games remaining. But Belleville's starting to get healthy. The goaltending situation is starting to become more clear. And when you look at that and you look at the names they have there, you got to be pretty confident that you got three guys that can get you a win on any given night.
All right, let's get into the third game of the week in Hershey. And this game, not to count the Senators out before they even showed up, but the Hershey Bears have been outstanding this season. They're always good at home, and the Giant Center is always a very, very tough building to play in, especially on their regular Sunday afternoon. But Senators go in there, they pick up a 4-2 victory, and a couple of goals from Igor Sokolov and Jake Lucchini with one of the nicest goals we've seen any Belleville Senator score this season. And then Kevin Mandalese returning from that injury and playing so well that there was some doubt as to how bad he was hurt in the first place. He didn't look like a guy who had to miss time, even just a couple of games due to injury. And really, I think just a full team performance. Again, exclamation point on that defensive play that the Sens were able to put together, because they held a fairly high-power Hershey offense to just a couple of goals.
They did, and I think, too, especially in that building, to hold them to what they did, and they really frustrated that top line of Vecchione, Scarbosa, Frank, and they got one back late with the goal he pulled, but outside of that, very, very stingy work by the Belleville defense to frustrate that trio, that high-flying trio. And then your best players have to be your best players, and Kevin Mandalese was. Jacob Bernard-Docker, really good on the blue line as well. And Jake Lucchini, another high-flying performance from him. He's got 10 points in his last 5 games, and he's going to be the type of player that's not going to sit back and idle. He wants to play playoff games again. And the way he's performing, he's really carrying this team offensively on his back.
Yeah, a nice way to finish the road trip. I can tell you it was a pretty loose bus ride home. After that, the 6.5 hours and change flew by because everybody was in a pretty good mood as the Senators pick up 4 of a possible 6 points on their Atlantic Division road trip, and only headed back to the Atlantic for one more game next weekend when they visit the Lehigh Valley Phantoms at the end of another 3-game road trip. But all in all, successful trip, one of the better road trips the Sens have had this season, and I think, Joel, one that can maybe build some confidence based on the opponents that they were able to win against over those 3 games.
Yeah, I think it's a continuation after what they were able to do over the Family Day weekend when they were able to continue to keep their stretch up against the Laval Rocket and get a win against Syracuse as well in that week. And you come in and a tough game in Bridgeport, and we talked about kind of the injury situation with that game, but to bounce back, not hang their heads, go into two tough buildings against two tough teams and collect decisive wins and really show that they're back in the hunt for a Calder Cup playoff spot again. And I think if you're a Belleville Senators fans, you have to look at the last 2 weeks as kind of what this team is hoping to accomplish with the coaching change and the goaltenders getting healthy, Roby Arventi's back, kind of stabilizing the roster. And another tough week ahead with some divisional games, but the Belleville Senators have to be feeling pretty good going into it.
They certainly do. The downside is that the wins don't move them any higher in the standings. The upside is it does get Belleville within 2 points of that fifth and final playoff spot in the North Division as they take the Laval Rocket on next week in their final meeting against Laval of the season. They may be running out of time, but again, a strong stretch over the final, 18 games or so could still see Belleville qualify, and there's a lot to play for as we continue on throughout the rest of the season and the last month and a half. Standings as of recording of this podcast Tuesday afternoon, Toronto Marlies still in first place at 75 points, Syracuse in second at 57. They're tied with the Utica Comets, but ahead on points percentage with a game in hand over Utica. Rochester's at 56 points, Laval at 51, Cleveland at 50, and then Belleville in at 49. Senators and Marlies have played the most games in the division. Rochester's 3 games in hand may end up being pretty pivotal come the end of the season, and we might see another race between the Sens and the Amerks for the final playoff spots. Again, you'll remember last season it was the Sens winning on the final day of the year to knock Toronto out of the playoffs, and boy, the Marlies obviously did not like that. They've come back with a vengeance to lead the North Division, and they will likely win the division unless they lose out, and a team like Syracuse can overtake them. So the standings are as tight as they've ever been. All the games are important, and again, there are 3 crucial ones coming up at CAA Arena this week, including on Wednesday against Utica, Friday against Rockford, and Saturday against the Rochester Americans. We will tee up those games in just a little bit, but when we come back, our next segment of Get to Know Your FO, Get to Know Your Front Office with Alex Siragusa from the Sens Ticketing Department. He'll be with us next. For now, we'll leave you in this segment with this week's Highlight of the Week, courtesy of Jake Lucchini. Thrown by Lucchini. Able to allow Castles to get free. Here's Lucchini, and great move to the net. Scores! Jake Lucchini with a shorty puts the Senators up 2-1, and it's the 14th of the year for the Trail BC native who made that look really easy. Continuing on to episode 7 of the Belleville Sens podcast, David Foote, Joel Vanderlaan remotely and sliding over from his desk about, what is that, you think 10 feet?
Pretty
15
close.
feet away, is Alex Siragusa from the front office. It's the next segment of Get to Know Your FO. If you tuned into the game in Laval, when was that, Alex? Back December something. Alex did a little guest color commentary. And if you're a season ticket holder, you've likely spoken to or seen Alex running around CAA Arena on game days, helping you, season ticket holders and all ticket holders, to get in the building first and have a wonderful experience. Good to see you, Goose. What's going on, man?
Not so much, Footy. It's been a while. You know, you've been on the road, and just catching up with you. Sounds like it was a good road trip.
It was. It's always nice when you win.
It is.
Especially the getaway day game. That's always nicer to win on getaway day. Yeah, no, the road trip was good, and it's nice to be back at my desk. I forgot what it looked like. Forgot how comfy my chair was. And I missed all the people in the office. I missed everybody. Even Timbit Garrett over there. Garrett brought Timbits in, Joel. You missed out. Sorry, pal. That's the weather kept you away from the Timbits.
I shouldn't be eating too many Timbits these days.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. All right, let's get on track here. We're doing Get to Know Your FO with Alex Siragusa. Alex is from Guelph originally, Guelph, Ontario, home of the Griffins and the Storm, which is, I assume, how you caught the hockey bug as a youngster?
Yep. So I grew up in Guelph, Ontario. Started skating when I was probably about 3-4 years old. Started out like most kids. Parents put you on the ice and you come screaming off. But now it's they have to kind of yell at me to get off the ice. So yeah, I grew up in Guelph. Played minor hockey my entire life there, up until I was about, I want to say maybe 16. Then I kind of knew that my 5-foot height, 90 pounds soaking wet wasn't going to go anywhere.
Hang on a second. You're taller than 5 feet.
This is back when I was 16.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Gotcha.
I knew I wasn't really going to go, to the show or anywhere like that. So I kind of figured, why not start making some money, save up for school. And I kind of figured, I love sports so much. Why not turn it into a career? So from there, I went to Brock University for their sport management program. I did 4 years there. I helped out with a lot of things there, whether that's with the school team. I did a placement with their Brock men's hockey team when they made that run in 2019, just before COVID shut everything down. And then I did a few other things there as well. I graduated from there just as COVID was kind of starting up. So my whole last year was kind of online, which kind of sucked, but I mean, it is what it is. That's kind of how life was. And then I started just looking for jobs in the sport industry. I knew hockey was my main goal to get here, and I saw the Sens were hiring, so I threw my resume in, and lucky enough, I got a call a few days later that they were interested, and I did the interview process, and here I am today. So.
Yeah, one of the younger members of our staff here is pretty young. If you're listening and you've been listening throughout the course of the episodes, save for Family Guy Ben last week, and myself, who's kind of a geezer, everybody here is pretty young. As a young guy coming out of school, were you surprised to, not that you're not qualified for the job, but were you surprised to get hired? And what was it like for you to have to uproot from Guelph, where you lived your whole life? St. Catharines is not too far away, and then to come basically across the province and settle down here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a great experience when I heard, we want you to come work for us, and not too many people get to say that your first job in the sport industry is in the professional leagues here with the American Hockey League. And I knew the league when it was, when Hamilton had their team and stuff like that. We had a couple guys in Guelph when we went to watch them. They went and played there, so we got a couple games with them, and now we're here, and it's been a great experience. I've gotten to experience a lot, and I've been very appreciative of what I got to do. The whole transition from moving from Guelph, I knew I was ready. I wasn't restricted from staying where I am. I was ready to kind of move and do what I want to do as a passion for work, and here I am. It was an interesting experience my first few weeks here. We kind of stayed in a hotel for the first 2 weeks, stayed with a few people we kind of met, and then we officially sat down and found a place here. Me and the one coworker here, Byron, we found a place here, and we've kind of been in the same spot ever since. So it's been a great experience, definitely worth the move, and we got to work with all the great people that work here, and it's been great.
I was going to say, you say we, and that's because it's strange how things work out sometimes, and your college roommate from Brock University, Byron DeRose, also got hired here at the same time. So likely makes things a little bit easier when you've got a familiar face to make the transition with, but it's wild how that kind of works out.
It is, and it's crazy to know that, having a familiar face there, it's easier to make the transition. You have someone there that you can go through the ropes with, and we're kind of taking over this office, the Brock crew, and we just hired Evan Jeffrey on not too long ago, and now there's about 3 of us here, so it's great.
Evan and Byron both haven't been on yet, and we're not going to make you pick yet who's going next. But did you guys know each other at school, all the 3 of you?
So me and Byron knew each other. We stayed. We lived together for 2 years, and me and Evan kind of knew of each other in passing and in classes and stuff. And then when we got hired here, it's like we've known each other for a while. So it's been a great experience, and it's interesting to see, for how many people were in our graduating class or how many people we went to school with, that we ended up in Belleville together, and we all knew each other now, and it's crazy.
You mentioned at the top of the show here, David, just kind of Alex's ticket sales job, but it's kind of progressed to so much more than that. Alex, you're kind of running the minor hockey programming with the team, and we always see on the broadcast all the minor hockey teams in the stands with their jerseys on and the activations that they do, and play like the pros. Can you kind of talk us through that and how you've kind of managed all of that through this season?
Yeah, it's my official title is a senior account executive, ticket sales and services. But that it's a broad term,
A lot of services.
Yeah,
Yes.
Exactly. But I kind of knew when I got here that, minor hockey it's a big thing, and not many small towns like Belleville and surrounding towns here have a professional team in their backyard. So I kind of wanted to take advantage of that and reach out to anyone that's in the area. So when I first got here, I kind of sat down and said, okay, who do we have league-wise that's around here? I grew up playing minor hockey pretty much my entire life, and just drawing from the experiences that I had, I wanted to offer that to kids that are growing up now. Like I said, we have a professional team here, and it's sky's the limit, I think, what we can offer them. So I kind of sat down and looked, I set a boundary of going anywhere from about Gananoque way to the east there, all the way down to about Clarington, Oshawa, just reaching out to different associations and organizations, just seeing if they were interested in participating in what we have here. Kind of just picked up where they left off before with what they had activation-wise, and just giving everyone the chance to experience that and take in a Belleville Senators game. Obviously, the team was here since 2017, so I want to kind of expand that and bring everyone out to enjoy a Belleville Sens game here with us.
And I guess kind of the uniqueness of playing in a smaller community is that CA Arena, for those that don't know, is in the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center, which also has 3 community rinks, which tends to lead minor hockey tournaments to the area. How much has that kind of helped you to have the Quinte Red Devils or the Bearcats or the Belleville Bulls minor hockey programs hosting all these tournaments, which brings these teams and these fans to the region quite frequently?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a benefit to us. Obviously, being so close to one of the main, I think it's one of the only rinks in Belleville that they have here, right? The community center for ice.
The Wellness Center? Yeah, there used to be more. They've kind of put them all together, and still not enough ice, given how big of a hockey town it is. But yeah, this is kind of like the hub of local hockey. Quinte Red Devils will practice up in Tweed or Madoc and in Cobourg as well, because the AAA Association is really big. But this really is, the hub of hockey for the Quinte region. Yeah,
and I think it's a benefit to us being attached to this building. We can advertise all throughout the building. We can set up booths and tents and stuff in that main area to try to draw teams in and work with the organizations that are local to say, hey, you guys have a tournament this week. We have this X amount of games here. If any teams are interested, please feel free to reach out. We can tell them what we have available. We can get our faces there and still be close to the office just in case anything comes up, especially for tournaments. We would be down in the Spine area there, just in front of the Mackey Insurance Arena, just talking with people, with parents, with players, all that kind of stuff, just to say, hey, this is who we are. We have a game tonight. Do you want to come out? And it's brought us pretty good success, especially on those tournament weekends. I think we've had about 10 teams at least from each tournament come out, which has been a really good benefit for us. And it's been an exciting atmosphere to bring to that building. And most games, I think that we've had all those kids here. They've left with a great time and a win from the Belleville Senators. So
take a couple more minutes here with the Belleville Sens Senior Account Executive, Ticket Sales and Service. Did I get it?
Yep, I think so.
Got
That's
it.
right.
Yeah. Alex Siragusa is our guest on Get to Know Your FO on episode 7 of the Belleville Sens podcast. What's been the most surprising part of this job, and maybe how has it matched the expectations that you had after accepting the job and then moving here and getting now through a season and 3 quarters just about?
Yeah, I think just all the opportunity that I've been given and kind of, if I have an idea, they've been really, really good here with letting me kind of run with it and expand upon that. And if I have any questions or need any help or anything, everyone's so willing to come and help me out. And I'm really thankful for that. I thought, it would be just, focusing on getting your season ticket holders in, getting, all that kind of stuff. But being able to do what I've done here and given the opportunity that I've had, it's been exceptional and more than I could ever have thought. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity I've had and looking forward to more.
I guess too, just like you mentioned there, connecting with the season ticket holders and the community. How much has that meant to you on a personal level as well?
It's been really great, just getting to know everyone over the year and 3 quarters that I've been here. I can see them, whenever I'm out in the community, I can, I see them and I'm like, hey, we know each other. We can have a conversation. We know like personal things about each other, and just having that strong connection, to let them know that, I'm here to help you. Anything I know, like we're both human beings. Yes, we're here to watch sports, and I'm here. This is my job, but at the end of the day, we're both humans, and we all have different things going on. So if something doesn't work out, obviously, I want to accommodate you the best as I can, and even it's kind of interesting because we are connected to a minor hockey rink and all that stuff, all the teams I work with. I can walk down there after work or during the day and I can see people I know, and it's like I've been here 3 quarters of a year and 3 quarters, and I know, hey, I know you from this and that, and it's pretty interesting. The hockey community it's a big one, but when you're a local, I guess almost 2 years here now. It's getting close to being a local.
Yeah. I will say you got to get through 3 years at least. Okay. And but yeah, and do you see yourself, I guess, staying here? Like, what is your, I guess, if your goal out of school was to get the job, how have your career goals adjusted since then?
Yeah, it's obviously like everybody else. Everyone wants to get to the top of the top to be affiliated with an NHL club, and being in the AHL. Development is key, and we're developing players here, but we're also developing a staff, which is great to know. And the staff here has been really great. If we want help with anything or we want to develop, they've been able to give us the tools to do so, which I've been really appreciative of. Just being able to use those tools to kind of expand my knowledge and my range of experiences and skill level and everything like that to kind of get to where I want to go, which, I would love to work in the NHL someday. And just having that backing to kind of do that is great. So I've been really appreciative of everything that everyone has helped me out with and done, and looking forward to seeing what kind of happens down the road.
What about your favorite part of the job so far?
I've gotten to do a couple things, like obviously being able to work with all the minor hockey teams and the kids and seeing how excited they are when they're here, and they kind of look at you being like, are you a player? Like, do you play for the team? Like, I'm like,
because you're not 5 foot tall anymore. You're taller.
I know. Yeah. So just kind of working with that kind of stuff, but just like the other experiences, like I was able to go on the road and call a couple games with you footy. That was pretty fun. Just getting to go and do all the community events and meet people and seeing the impact that we do have on this community is great. And pretty much everything I've been really, really excited about and have been memorable so far. So I've been enjoying my time here in Belleville.
Well, and I think I speak for everyone in the office when we say we've enjoyed having you, and the work that you've been doing and the effort you've been putting in is not going unnoticed. A lot of these programs and half the kids that come into the games wouldn't be here if not for your hard work. So big time stick tap to you, man, for the way you've kind of adjusted to this and figured it out and set yourself up for again a successful season here, and then another hopefully successful one and more moving forward.
For sure, absolutely.
All right, Alex Siragusa on Get to Know Your FO. You know the drill. Yeah, you got to pick who's next.
Well, Well, you've had Alex Smith and now you've had me, so why don't we round out the trio and we got Alex Pickford up here.
The Alex hat trick, Alex Pickford. He's nominating the boss. We'll have to let AP know that he's up next. So that'll be likely next week. As I check the schedule in terms of recording, we can probably get one out next week before we hit the road. Alex Pickford will be our guest next week on Get to Know Your FO on the Belleville Sens podcast. Thanks again, Goose. Thanks for coming on. I'm sure the phone's been ringing off the hook while we've had you here, so we better let you go.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll take another really short break. When we come back, Joel and I will tee up this week's 3-game homestand against Utica, Rockford, and Rochester. Stay with us on the Belleville Sens podcast. Finishing up on the Belleville Sens podcast, episode 7. A reminder to, first of all, subscribe to the pod wherever it is you're listening, and don't forget to give us a review, and a 5-star rating would be fantastic because we believe we're bringing 5-star programming through the Belleville Sens podcast. So that would be fantastic if you could do that to help us out. David Foote here, Joel Vanderlaan in remotely this week. Thanks again to Alex Siragusa for his time. You can find his contact info on the staff profile pages at BellevilleSens.com. If you got a minor hockey group, you're interested in season tickets, etc., he is one of the guys that can get you sorted out. And as you heard over that last segment, more than qualified to do so. So you can hit up Alex for your ticketing needs and lots of opportunity to buy some tickets and get into the rink at CAA Arena this week. Sens with a 3-game homestand before they head out on another 3-game road trip, and 2 of 3 divisional games this week. Utica on Wednesday for a winning Wednesday, Rockford on Friday for Road to the AHL night presented by Mackey Insurance, and Rochester American Saturday for Community Heroes night presented by Bell. Joel, let's start first with the Utica Comets, a team that has had Belleville's number this season. Senators have yet to beat the Comets. 1 point against them in their last meeting New Year's Eve. That kind of heartbreaking overtime loss down at the Adirondack Bank Center in Utica. But a team that's gone through some transition in the last week or so as the NHL trade deadline approaches and has lost some key players, but still packs a fair amount of firepower and a couple of really, really good goaltenders.
Yeah, and I guess that's a little bit of the saving grace there is that Andreas Janssen was moved in that big Timo Meier blockbuster trade earlier in the week ahead of the NHL trade deadline. But Utica Comets coming into this game red hot. Big 7-1 win over the Cleveland Monsters, which helped the Belleville Senators in terms of trying to leapfrog Cleveland, which is now a possibility with a couple wins this week. But Graham Clark's got 8 points in his last 4 games. He's been a player that's really come on here of late. You mentioned their goaltending's very, very good. Joe Gambardella, Riley Walsh, players that have been kind of thorns in the side of the Belleville Senators this season, and always Tace Thompson seems to always rise to the occasion as well when we face them. So a really good, deep team that the Utica Comets have, and you can see why they have a winning record with 25 wins on the year.
Meeting number 4 of 6 between the Sens and the Comets this season. And, they will be a tough test, but I mean, if the Senators can play defensively the way that they have been, I mean, they kept all-star rookie Ethan Frank off the score sheet, basically out of the game in Hershey the other night. He was a non-factor, and that has not happened a lot in his season out in Hershey. So I think that kind of same focus on defensive structure and being strong in the neutral zone and slowing the Comets down in transition is going to be important. And then I think Belleville needs to get back to that physical identity that they've played so well with. And I think Mitch Hurd adds to that. We didn't even talk about his acquisition in the opening segment. Guy who's got some AHL experience, played 4 years in Germany, and now is here in Belleville, becoming the most local player on the roster, being from Bowmanville. But the Senators, the way they are lined up right now, even with the dozen injuries that they have, still have the potential to play tight defensively, strong physically, and hopefully use that to generate some offense.
Yeah, I think that's always going to be the game plan. I think with the David Bell led coach team, it's take care of your own end, and things tend to work out when you do the little things right. And we saw that against Hershey and Wilkes-Barre, timely scoring, power play getting in on the act. Jake Lucchini with a shorthanded goal as well. And if you can frustrate these teams like they've been able to do, and Utica's a team that doesn't score much. They've scored the fewest goals in the North Division this season. So Belleville's going to have to stay true to that identity and try to get a couple past to Nico Dawes, who's always a tough guy in net. But I think the game plan stays the same. I think it's going to be kind of eerily similar to what we saw with Wilkes-Barre. Kind of a very similar team to that if you're just looking on paper. So Belleville has the blueprint to beat the Utica Comets, and if they stick to it, they can come out with a big win on Wednesday night.
That is Wednesday night, likely the day you're listening to this podcast as it goes up on Tuesday evening. It is a winning Wednesday at CAA Arena, so food and drink specials at McFarland's Pub and the other food and beverage venues inside the rink. All the details at BellevilleSens.com. Friday is Road to the AHL night presented by Mackey Insurance. It's going to be a fantastic night to learn a little bit more about some of the Belleville Senators and Ottawa Senators prospects. Garrett Harvey, who we had on a couple weeks ago, has been working hard on the Road to the AHL video features series. We've got our latest set of Road to the AHL hockey cards available for the first 2,000 fans or so that show up on Friday. But aside from that, all the fun and festivities around Road to the AHL night, it's a chance to get some revenge on the Rockford Ice Hogs, who absolutely walloped the Senators back in Rockford at the start of the season. And I promise it is a game that the Sens have been thinking about since rolling out of Illinois back at the end of October.
Yeah, and rightfully so. It was a really difficult night, and something that you kind of want to forget. Almost a little bit of burn the tape mentality on that one as Pell finished up that road trip. But there's a reason why the Rockford Ice Hogs are able to frustrate teams like they were to the Belleville Senators. Very deep lineup, and Lucas Reichel, a former first-round pick, has just been on fire this season with 46 points in 50 games as a young player. And they have David Guest, they have Brett Sini, Dylan Sakura, and then you start looking on the back end. Adam Clendening's been in the league and is a very good veteran presence. And you look up and down their lineup, and they're deep, and there's a reason why they're doing what they're doing this season. So Belleville's, once again, it goes back to the being hard on the forecheck, playing to your identity, trying to slow down the Rockford Ice Hogs from what they want to do. Because when they're on, they can put 6-7 past you, and it just leads to kind of open chaos for the Belleville Sens like we saw earlier in the season.
Mentioned David Gust just scored his first NHL goal with the Chicago Blackhawks, I think on his first shift and his first shot. And the Senators will hope that he is staying in the NHL and that they don't have to deal with him on Friday night, because he was a thorn in their side in October. I mean, he came out of the gate absolutely flying and has not let up. He has been fantastic. And they've also got guys like Dylan Sakura, who is a proven pro and can chip in here and there. Bobby Lynch, the veteran. Buddy Robinson, another big veteran forward at 6'6", 227. So this is a difficult task. And I'm not going to count out the Rochester Americans because they're always a challenge, but I think this is going to be one of the tougher games this month for the Belleville Senators as they have to try to get some revenge against the Rockford Ice Hogs, who thumped them back in October. It was also the game that Roby Yarvente got hurt in, and so he will get another crack at the Ice Hogs. A quick start will be important for the Sens. That was the issue in Rockford, is they got scored on, 15 seconds in or something, and then it's like 3-0 inside of 5 or 7 minutes. It was not a good night. One of the worst games of the season by far, so a chance for the Sens to remedy that. Again, that's Friday against Rockford, the only time the Ice Hogs come to CAA Arena, so if you like seeing unique teams, if you're a Chicago Blackhawks fan or you know a Blackhawks fan, that would be the game for you. If you like hockey cards, that would be the game for you because, again, first 2,000 fans through the door at CAA Arena will get hooked up with our 5-set of Road to the AHL trading cards, and you can add them to last year's collection as well. So that's Friday. And then Saturday, this is the one that could have the biggest playoff implications with a month and a half left to play. The Rochester Americans are in town. Senators and Amherst always play tightly contested games. It's becoming a pretty significant rivalry, I think, in the North Division. If you go Belleville-Toronto, Belleville-Laval, I think it's got to be Belleville-Rochester right there next. And Saturday on Community Heroes Night presented by Bell, certainly going to be another one of those competitive North Division rivalry games that we've come to expect.
Yeah, we mentioned the two other teams coming in playing well, and Rochester might be the team coming in the hottest with 20 goals over their last 3 games. Yuri Kulich scoring at will, 6 points over those 3 games, and you start to look at their lineup, and it keeps getting deeper and deeper as we go throughout the season here. And very good in net with Malcolm Subban and Michael Hauser as well. So it's going to be another tightly contested game. They always seem to be. Belleville and Rochester know each other fairly well, like you alluded to, and the Belleville Senators are a team that's going to have to kind of manage this week. And tough game Wednesday, really tough game Friday, and then right back at it Saturday, and it doesn't get any easier as you go throughout the week. So we know David Bell is going to have this lineup ready to go. You start to look at it, you look at the goalies are getting healthy. The roster, you hope, can kind of get over those nicks and bruises that they suffered on the Atlantic trip there, and they're going to need everybody, all hands on deck. You're going to need the Mitchell Herds of the world, the Matthew Bouchers, the Jared Lucas Savages to keep playing their game, keep providing that depth, because at the end of the day, after this week too, it just continues the divisional games as well. So it's going to be a lot of checking in the mirror, seeing where you are, and making sure you're doing all the little things right to get back into this playoff push, which they've managed to do over the last 2 weeks. And I don't see them letting off that pace when you got guys like Dylan Hetherington, Jake Lucchini, kind of in the ear, reminding the guys that, hey, it's playoff time hockey right now.
Should be a fun trio of games. Again, Wednesday night is a winning Wednesday against the Utica Comets. Friday night is Road to the AHL night presented by Mackey Insurance against the Rockford Ice Hogs. And Saturday is Community Heroes night presented by Bell. And we'll honor the first responders and frontline workers who even post-pandemic have continued to do their part in keeping our community safe and healthy and rolling along through what's been a trying couple of years across the globe. But it's going to be a fun week, exciting week, and once again, another 2 out of 3 week, and you are even closer in the mix for one of those few remaining playoff spots. We'll see how it all plays out. If you're looking for tickets, head to BellevilleSens.com or Ticketmaster.ca and make sure you scoop up yours before they're all gone, and hopefully we'll see you around CAA Arena this week and weekend. With that, we'll wrap up episode number 7. For Joel Vanderlaan, Alex Siragusa from Get to Know Your FO, David Foote, thanking you for listening. We'll talk to you next week on episode 8 of the Belleville Sens podcast.